Hey everybody, welcome to Lost Light and Laughter, an uplifting show about laughter after tragedy. I'm your host, Michelle A. If you're ready for some inspiration and laughter in your life, you've tuned in to the right show.
It's time to show love, everybody, show love one time. Feel me strong enough to fight my battles. I know he'll never give me more than I can handle. My love,
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Lost Light and Laughter. I'm your host, Michelle A. And today I have Mai Waller with me. I met her online. And you know, like sometimes you meet people online and you just click.
Yep.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And it just happens. These things happen and I love it. And so I want her to come on in, introduce yourself, tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
You know it. So thank you so much for having me on here, Michelle. You are everything. Like I knew from the time I called you and you said, Amen, that it was perfectly aligned, for this journey that I'm on and kind of where I am today, actually. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mai Waller. And I am the founder of the Mace Anthony Williamson Foundation and the Doula Project Resource Program. And that is a 501c3 nonprofit that I started in honor of my son. His name was Mace Anthony Williamson. And we are the voice for families and babies. I'm a doula, so I gladly serve unconditionally to my community and here in Florida. And wherever God places me, honestly. So, because I started in North Carolina with a virtual support service. So it kind of opened a lot of doors really fast. So, yep, that's me, just doulaing it.
All right. And we need someone to support us when we're giving birth. So that's awesome.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so as you know, the name of the show is called Lost, Light, and Laughter. Tell our audience about a significant loss that you experienced in life.
Yes, ma'am. So the most significant loss that I faced in life was losing my son, Mace Anthony Williamson. And he was perfect. And all babies are perfect. And I just feel like that. Now, us big kids, we might not be so perfect, but babies are innocent. And he was everything to me. He was my first son. And I went into the hospital to have him. And everything was fine until it wasn't. And I lost him due to a tragic vacuum assisted delivery that, it never was supposed to happen in the first place, ever. That was not a part of the plan that was told to me, by the hospital. And when it happened, I was only 22 years old. So I was really young and not really knowing, you just go in to have a baby and think you're just going to push and that's it. And that's not the reality of the situation at all. It's not. So losing my son, had to be and still is one of the most tragic things I have ever gone through in my whole entire life, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
It brings tears to my eyes just listening to it because, I can imagine even as a mom, and then you're so young and you have all these expectations.
Yeah.
You have the nursery set up.
Mm-hmm. Everything. It was, I was so happy. I was so happy because just like you said, we had the nursery set up and, his name, Mace, M-A-C-E. I had big black bold letters, in his nursery, and we had a big walk-in closet. So I had we didn't have clothes in there. We didn't have anything in there. It was set up for Mace. Now I can't tell you how much Mace would have slept in that closet. But, we were ready for him. And I was over the moon. I was excited because I had just moved from Florida, where I was born and raised in St. Petersburg, up to Greensboro, North Carolina, and I was in a long distance relationship with his father, David, who is my son, Micah's father too. And we didn't plan that, that wasn't something we planned. We were young and just, ready to just do life. And I can specifically remember his mom asking me when I first moved there. It was like late November when I moved. It was after Thanksgiving. And she was like, so, how do you feel about having kids? And I was like, I don't want kids till I'm like 30. I'm 30 right now. I'm 30 right
Right.
now. So, and I have two, beautiful subsequent children. But at that time, I was just, I was just a child,
Mhm.
just a kid.
But those older women, they be knowing stuff. I don't know
Mhm.
how, but
Yeah,
they just know. They can see stuff. You're
yeah,
like, I
yeah,
ain't studying no kid. And they like, huh, okay.
yeah. Because it was definitely that case. And just honestly, to just be completely transparent, it was a question that was asked, and then when we found out about me being pregnant with Mace, I was met with, how do you know it's yours? Do you think she came up here pregnant already? So it was just, yeah, I had to. And you know what, it was just crazy because I never go through phones. I'm not that type of person. But I just picked his phone up one day and it was a text from his dad, and that's the text that I seen.
Mm.
And I was just so hurt
Yeah.
because I'm like, how you go from asking me, when I'm here and all excited that I'm here and with your son, and asking me when I want to have children, and then we get the biggest surprise of our life, which is, a baby. And that's how you put doubt in your son's head, about our union, our newborn, our new baby, pregnancy. And it was terrible. And we didn't talk for like 7 months.
Wow.
So that was a cold time for me in North Carolina because they were the family that I had there. And it
Mhm.
was just like, it was gone just like that because I was hurt. I was
Yeah.
genuinely hurt. And I was like, she didn't, you know, and it was just like, how can you go from one thing to another and then create this barrier between us because they were wanting to do a DNA test on my son? Like, it was terrible. It was terrible. So then when things turned for the worse, like not even before that, actually, we got into a good place when I was about probably at that 7th month, maybe 7.5, and she offered to do a baby shower for us. And I felt like that was a good olive branch. I'm like, well,
Right. That's
good,
what I was thinking. Okay, here's the
I
olive
knew my
branch.
mom had, did a baby shower for us. I was so happy. And then
Mhm.
when I got back to North Carolina, that was what David let me know. He's like, oh, well, my mom wants to do a baby shower because they didn't come down to Florida and come to that baby shower. Like, David didn't even come to
Mhm.
that baby shower. I just felt like he felt so, you know, he was so stuck on what his parents said, and just it just never really went away. And I feel like they created a lot of gap with me and him and distance. But coming back and hearing her say that, I thought that we were going to be in a good place. And then when we went to the hospital, it it was, it turned for the worse for Mace. And then um when we did find out that he was, on basic, I'm gonna just say this. Mace was born on September 20th and died on September 20th. Okay. They kept my son on monitors for 7 days. They told me they couldn't get a diagnosis for him. I would ask questions and they were like, oh, he's gonna be fine. The worst that it could be is cerebral palsy. He might have some developmental difficulties. He's gonna be fine. And then on that 7th day, they told me that my son was brain dead, which they had done tests previously, before that, to know. They're medical professionals. They knew, and they covered it. And on that day, I was so heartbroken, but my faith was there still. I trusted in God um, so much. And when things didn't change, I just had to give him to God, give his physical body, you know what I'm saying, to God, because that's all he was at that point. He was just a body, his soul had left.
Did you get a chance to like hold and nurse him, any of that? Or did they just take him out and then he was like, look, we got to try to maybe work on him immediately?
So what it was, they took him immediately to the NICU, and then he was in the NICU,
Mhm.
and they ran the test. They did the EKG test. They did everything, for days. They knew, like I said, from that day. And he was on all these monitors and cords. It was a lot, to see me. I mean, to see my baby getting poked and prodded, and them doing spinal taps, them doing all of these things to my precious son, and they knew that he was dead. And I did get to hold him on this this pillow type. They gave a hospital pillow. They gave me a pillow to hold my son, but he was still attached to all of these monitors and stuff. I didn't get a chance, and I did not nurse him. They were having me pump breast milk. Now, this was before the diagnosis. They were having me pump breast milk, and it's like God is so good, because God knew, and I didn't go through. I was able to get some of the colostrum out, but God knew, and He didn't have me go through that pain in my breast of having to do cabbage leaves and all of that stuff. Like, it was, I was able to express milk, and because I felt my breast getting enlarged.
Yeah.
But when it was time for that milk to dry up, like, God just, He knew. He didn't even put me through any more additional pain of having to think about it so much. Like, once that milk dried up, I just was good. So it did pain me to have this little, what they had, like a little spoon
Mhm.
that I would put, or a Q-tip that I would put on my son's lips, right, to put the breast milk on him, because his lips were dry. So
Right.
I put the breast milk on his lips, and you know, that was my way of nursing my son, bonding with him. And the milk that I did pump, right, and put into these little bottles or whatever, they kept it, so it was just terrible. It was terrible. The first time I held Mace without cords on him, it was when we took him off life support. And that was our first time, like, ever holding our baby, like a normal family, and we took pictures, and I smiled in those pictures. David smiled in those pictures, but it was so much pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I can I I can't even fathom
It
because
was so
all of
much.
the emotions just going on, like this, the unknown, the fear,
Hmm.
like, is this real?
Hmm.
Is this a dream?
Yeah.
Like, everything is going on in your mind, and you're thinking this is not part of the plan.
Yeah.
This is not how it's supposed to happen. And so I know you've mentioned God, but when did you first come to even know God?
I
Your
came to
face
know
is lit
God
up.
from a child, honestly, and then of course you walk through life, and the devil get his little hands in you. And when I moved to North Carolina, I knew that was a faith move. And I had to trust him. And then just, you know, I can't say that I was like all in the church and stuff when I did move there, because again, it was a new place. I did go to church on Easter Sunday when I was pregnant with my son Mace. And I just feel like it's one of those things that my faith is there. God knows my relationship with him. So I didn't want to, and I hadn't been back to church since my grandma passed away in 2013.
Mhm.
So because that was just another loss. That was the first loss I had ever experienced where I'm like, God, like, what's up? Like,
Mhm.
what's going on?
Mhm.
Like, how can you,
Mhm.
And when I did try to go back to church when I was pregnant with Mace, it was just, I I didn't feel right in that church, because I knew that it wasn't my home church. And I'm not saying it's wrong to go to other churches, or it's right, or you should do it or you shouldn't do it. That's just where I was at on my journey. And I felt like, okay, if I'm going to go to church, I will, I'll try this after I have my son, because I just didn't feel right in that space, because it wasn't familiar to me. And it was just a bunch of strangers. And I can't say that I was so open to that in a new environment, and just being unmarried and pregnant, and the dad's not with me in church. I just felt like it was all eyes on me,
Yeah.
and just trying to just figure me out. But so I didn't return back. I
Mhm.
didn't. And when I went in to have Mace and things were not looking good, that's the first person I turned to. The first thing was God. God, like, help me. My it was on 10. And then when I found out that he was gone, um I still had my faith. It was still there. But then when I had to take him off life support because I knew he wasn't coming back, my faith was shook.
Yeah.
It was shook. It was because I was having trouble understanding it. It was like,
Why?
why?
Yeah.
Why would you mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
why would you have me move here, leave everything I know, get pregnant with this child? I remember dating a guy really young, like 18, 19. And I was so gung-ho over him. I wanted to have a baby from this guy so bad, like 18, young, wanting to have a baby.
Mhm.
But God, he's like, not him, not him,
Yeah.
not him, not him. And then David, he was the one that we did it, and he was my child's father. And I just felt like, okay, this is it. I'm finally a mom. Like, I'm
Mhm.
planning this kid's life. And okay, when he turns 5, we're going to take him to Disney. And he's going to be the only child because I think that I'm done after this because this pregnancy was just, but just when everything happened, I just felt like, and also I was saying, like, I can't wait to have this baby. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to have
Yeah.
him. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so tired. Like,
Yeah.
oh my,
Yeah.
I can't wait to get my body back and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But all those words, I I thought about them so much. Like, gosh, I just wish I could have had him in my stomach, because he was safe here. He was safe with me. He
Yeah.
was safe inside me. And you know,
How
it
did,
just it,
okay, so, your faith is there, God exists, but this is real and it's happening. Like, were there any particular prayers that you prayed, or was there something that let you know that, okay, God is with you? Like, did he respond back to you through a person? Did you read a scripture? Like, how did you reconcile all of that stuff with God? Because it's hard not to walk away when you're in so much pain. So
right.
you have to really be strong in God to,
Yeah,
to show up and
yeah,
still believe while you're crying,
yeah.
still trust while you're crying. You know?
So for me, it was no specific scripture that I prayed on or I said. It was, I took comfort in knowing that, okay, if my son isn't with me and he's with God in heaven, then my grandma is with God in heaven. So that means Mace is with my grandma. So Mace he pretty good.
With
He got,
family. Whoo! You got
yeah,
me, girl. You got
yes,
me.
Lord.
Whoo!
Yes,
He
yes,
with
Lord.
family.
Yeah.
Whoo!
Yep, with his
You
grandma.
got
And
me.
I love my grandma. Like, she
Whoo!
was the first person to tell me, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And I held on to that in my head. Like, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I could have walked out of that hospital and been like, okay, well, my son passed away. All right, it was my fault. But I knew this was not my fault. Like, this shouldn't have went like this. And I just remembered the nurse telling me, like, if because I was so exhausted from pushing, I said, well, can you guys do the forceps? Because that's the only thing that I remembered from the one birth class that I took was the forceps. And I said, could y'all do the forceps, to get him out, because I think that he's stuck in there. And she was like, okay, well, we'll try the forceps, but if the forceps don't work, then we'll have to do a C-section. And I can vividly remember my doctor telling me, you don't want to be a C-section mom. You don't want to be one of those C-section moms. So it was like, well, if the forceps don't work, that's the next natural step, and you do whatever you have to do to get my son
Right.
out.
Right.
And that never happened. It was they skipped that, and they did the vacuum assisted delivery. Now by that time, my son, he was losing all the oxygen. He was gone, period. But I feel like he would have had a chance at life, even if it wouldn't have been a good quality of life. And it would have been a lot harder on me and David. But he had a chance if they would have done that C-section, and they didn't. You know, the nurse, when the doctor came in the room, she completely just let him take over, and she forgot what she had just told me, which was, if this doesn't work, we're doing this. And they just didn't do it. They never did, because when the vacuum failed, when they did their 3 pop-offs and he still hadn't budged, all it took was them to do an episiotomy, literally, and my son came out. I pushed one good time and he was out. So it just makes me just like, dude, it was so many ways that you guys could have saved his life, and you chose to not save his life. He was just, and I seen it as, a race factor. This is another Black child. So what? All right. And then really, we the best thing out here. So another Black man being brought into this world, you don't know who he could have been. We saw Barack Obama. We saw Michael Jordan. We see LeBron James. We see all of these strong, intelligent Black men. And girl, listen.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
Endless.
In life.
Endless. So I knew that I had to stand for him. I knew that I had to fight for him and for me and for David. Before it was about any other, little Black babies and Black families, it was, I need to stand up for us, because nobody else is going to do that. They are going to just let us walk out of here with our heads down, because we couldn't walk out of no hospital with our heads held high. No, it was down to the ground. And I couldn't. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So that's when I hired an attorney. Give me one second. I'm sorry. I apologize. I couldn't ignore that knock at the door. But that's when I hired the attorney for me and David. And we sat in and explained the situation to them. And the rest was history. We had someone on our side that was going to help us fight.
Amen.
So yeah, that was that
one. That's I was like, it's so much to take on with the unknown, because this is not something that's just, it happens so frequently within our own circles that we can say, okay, I know this happened to such and such, this happened to such and such. Like when it's happening to you, it's just you. And so you don't know the resources that's out there. You don't know a person that you can lean on. You're trying to figure out whatever you can do with what you have. So I am so glad that God allowed you to find someone that saw you, as parents, not young parents, just saw you as people that had a child and lost their child, that they saw the humanness inside of you and saw the pain and says, I'm going to fight for you. So I can even see God showing up in that too. To say, I'm going to show up and I'm going to fight for you this way. So I'm so glad that he did that for you. Now, okay, so tell me, like, because you're going through this process, you've hired an attorney, you're trying to get through everyday life. Like, when do you remember laughing? Like, did it take a while? Do you have a story that you can share with the audience of like, okay, this is what happened?
So, in the thick of it, it's 9/20, guys. That's Mace's birthday, September 20th. That's always a sign.
He does these little special things for us.
Yep, all the time. So in the thick of grief, Mace passed September 20th. So, we took him off life support October 2nd. So it was October, November, December, just tragic. January, tragic. So Valentine's Day rolls around and I'm still in pain. Like it is, I had an episiotomy and people think that it's just going to heal. And it's like, no, that is a very painful thing, and it takes a while to heal and to be comfortable, becoming intimate again. So Valentine's Day came around and I had just, started this just to do something, just to do a job. I had started working for this really small, like telemarketing company up in North Carolina. Like literally it was like a storage closet type. So I was one of their first, me and a couple of other people were one of their first like workers for this company. Pray that they're still doing good and thriving and growing. But I knew that Valentine's Day was really special for me and David. He always made it special. But it was just different this particular year in 2018 because we had plans for our son, and I didn't want to dwell on that day. I wanted us to have a normal Valentine's Day. And I went home and I think I cooked for him or something, and I got something real cute on, and, and then we made love, but it was very brief. Let me tell you, it hurt so bad. I was in pain still. I think I was in. It was more of a mental thing for me still because I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking about the episiotomy. I'm like, okay, no, we can't do this. All right, we just gonna, let's just watch a movie or something. And that literally, it was 2 minutes tops, girl. I promise you. And
gave it away.
That was nothing. It was 2 minutes, literally. And
oh my goodness.
In that 2 minutes, girl, God gave me a lifetime of blessings by blessing me with my son Micah. I found out I was pregnant. Yes, girl. I found out I was
pregnant. Move fast. Micah, like, I'm in here. Okay.
Yep, real quick. I'm telling you, God is so good because I told you I'm working in this real small space, this dang storage closet dang there. And it was a couple weeks for real, like at least maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. Let me just say that. Give it a benefit of the doubt, scientifically.
Yeah.
But I was so hot, and I just was like, why am I so hot like this? Like, and I'm going to the bathroom all the time. I'm like, does this mean what I think it means?
Right.
Then I went home and I drove to the dollar store first.
Right.
Yep, got that pregnancy test, and I peed, and that thing popped up 2 lines. It was very faint, but it was 2 lines. So I took another one.
Yeah.
Same, faint, 2 lines. And I was like, okay, no. Oh, I was so excited to tell Dave. I told him, I said, David, I am pregnant. And he was so over the moon. Like, we laughed because I'm like, I don't know how this happened, when it had time to happen, but it happened, and God knew that I needed this because I was, faking it until I made it. And I was, still showing up every day, doing this job and just trying to be normal and get back to me. And God was like, okay, I see you. I hear you.
Slid in there.
Yep, real quick. And when I found out I was pregnant, I knew that I was going to name that child Micah before I knew it was a boy or a girl, because I was like, only God could have done this. And he who is like God is what Micah means.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's my baby.
Yes. Yep. God is so good. There's humor in that. Okay. Tell me a little bit about Micah as a child, though, because I'm like, he obviously is very determined. I'm like, bro, you slept. That was quick. I ain't gonna check, please. You here? Like,
literally, I'm like, well, you just made space, didn't you? Like, you just made it your business. Okay. Micah is, man, let me tell you, when Micah was born, Micah had 6 fingers on each hand. So on this side of his pinky, he had a little finger on each side. Little digits. And I just knew that was May's child. I just knew it. I'm like, look at God done blessed me this fast and gave me a baby with 6. Look, 12, I mean. And I'm like, but we can't let you go out like that, son.
We're gonna take you.
Things gotta get clipped off, son. I'm sorry. But they were just fleshy. That's it. If it would have had the bone, they wouldn't have been able to do it. But by the grace of God, it was just, that fleshiness, and it looked like a finger. It did. That didn't develop all the way. And I'm like, look at Mace just making his little way in your life like that, just letting us know, okay, he's special. This the one right here. And Micah is just,
you see me.
Yeah. And that's it. I said Mace is everything to me. He shows up in my children. Micah is so smart and funny, and he is just, he wants to know everything. He's extremely inquisitive. And he talks so much. He does. And it's funny because he didn't really talk until he was about, like, talk, like, until he was about to turn 4 years old. Like I was worried about him. I'm like, he's like zibber, zibber, gibber, 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 gibber. And when I moved back to Florida and I got him in speech therapy, because I'm not the mama that's gonna deny if something is wrong with my
Right,
child, I'd
right,
rather
right.
get him while he's young and
Yeah.
he's able to get the help that he needs and not labeled as the bad kid because he doesn't know how to communicate his feelings and emotions and stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, he is doing great. He is on a great track, and just he's a completely different kid from 2022. Like seriously, and
God
I'm
is
just
so good.
yes, he
Like,
is.
it's just the little things that he will do to remind us that I see you, sweetie.
Yeah,
I heard your prayer. All
yeah,
right. I'm with you. And it's just, if we can just open our eyes to see and receive, I just love God. I
yeah,
do. And you just never know where your story is going to bless. You just never know where it's going to go and who it's going to bless. And I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, so tell me, do you have any words of wisdom that you might want to share with a young mom or just any mom at that might be experiencing something similar? Like, this is not supposed to happen. How do I get through it?
Yeah. Um. So, is it okay if I share something with you really quick? I have to run
Absolutely.
and get it.
Absolutely. Go ahead. You know, we family on this show. Go on.
This is Mace.
Oh my
Yep.
goodness, so cute.
Who is so
Yes.
cute?
Oh.
Yep, that's Mace Anthony Williamson.
Oh.
That's him. And this photo was done, like I said, he's not on monitors or anything like that. This was after he was taken off life support. We did photos. So, what I'll say to any parents that, are that already know that the diagnosis is fatal, um, I would say capture these moments with your baby. Take pictures. Do not be ashamed of what you're going through. Don't be embarrassed because I can remember not being on social media
Mhm.
for months because I was so embarrassed and ashamed because I'm like, how am I supposed to tell people that my son passed away? Like,
Mhm.
how am I supposed to tell people that this happened?
Yes.
But the people that have a heart and they know and they have their own children,
Mhm.
and then sometimes it doesn't even take that. It's the people that can only imagine, and what I tell them is don't imagine it. So for parents that have experienced loss, don't be ashamed of it. Talk about your baby, remember your baby, honor your baby, say your baby's name, because their life matters. No
It's
matter how brief it was, it matters. And what I want to say to parents, that are currently pregnant is to ask questions. Ask all the questions you need. Get a doula, get a midwife,
yeah,
get
yeah.
a birth team, because the OBGYN is the OBGYN, and they have several patients that they're seeing at one time, sometimes over a dozen, sometimes at least 25,
Mhm.
right? So with a doula, it's more of an intimate bond. It is literally a lifelong
Yeah.
companion that you will have forever, and they are there to empower you and advocate for you.
Mhm.
And if it's not a doula, have somebody in your circle that will do those things with you, that will pray with you, that will talk to you about your pregnancy,
Yeah.
and just give you the comfort that you need and the empowering that you need, because that is not a journey of the knowing. It's not, because it's so different for every single person. The walk is it's a different walk for everybody. And it's easy for OBGYNs and doctors, and nurses to go into airplane mode because this is something that they do every single day.
Mhm.
But having a baby isn't something you do every single
Right.
day.
Right.
It's not, and you have to be prepared. You have to have the knowledge, and you have to have the strength to ask questions, and never be ashamed, ever be
Yes.
ashamed to ask
Yes.
questions.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome, Mai. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell our audience where they can find you.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
also going to put your information like in the description box so they can click on it, but tell them where they can find you for those that are driving and listening to the show.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I can be found on LinkedIn.com as Mai Waller. Maiye. I believe I spelled my whole name out. Mai. It's Mai Waller, but I just shortened it to Mai. On Facebook, I post motivational, positive Christian things. Like I give my own take of the word. I say it a little differently than what your pastor might, but it's still the word of God. And you can find me as Mai Waller, Maiye Waller on Facebook. And on Instagram, you can find me at My the Executive #1. My the Executive #1. Yes, ma'am.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on, Mai.
Thank you
And
for
this
having me.
concludes this episode of Lost, Light, and Laughter.
Yeah. I love it.
I'ma show love, everybody, show love one time. Feel me strong enough to fight my battles. I know he'll never give me more than I can handle. My Lord, my King, the one that I do love. He sends his love down from up above. My faith, my strength, and all that